Hi, for a limited time, get up to 60% off our exclusive official merch. Don't miss out. Grab your favorites now. Visit our Amazon page through the link below and score these deals before they're gone. Hey people, I'm Danielle, and this is my story. Please like and subscribe. Growing up, I thought my mom was the coolest. Dad was always traveling for work, and we'd never gotten close. But I loved being with Mom because she was so unpredictable and fun. She didn't fuss over balanced meals or strict routines, and bedtime was always flexible, depending on how far our living room fort was coming along, or if we hadn't finished our movie. She was all about letting me explore and being creative without caring about a messy house or dirty clothes. It's like she'd crafted her parenting style from a child's wish list, and it was awesome.
A child needs some discipline. We don't want people thinking she's being raised by wolves.
I don't think a lot about what other people are thinking, and a child needs to enjoy their childhood. You only get it once. But nothing topped the birthday party she threw me when I turned 10. She turned our backyard into a carnival with swings, food stalls, bouncy castles, and a petting zoo. The whole neighborhood was invited, and everyone was having a blast, till things turned a bit chaotic. We suddenly had goats headbutting kids, llamas chasing neighbors down the street, and alpacas uprooting everyone's lawns. And to make things 10 times worse, Dad turned up early to find the house looking like a tornado had swept through. It didn't help that we also got a massive fine from the city council for unauthorized livestock. Dad was beyond furious, and after a huge fight, he told Mom he'd had enough and wanted a divorce. He moved out the next day, and soon after the divorce was finalized, we found out he got remarried. Mom didn't take all these changes well and got really depressed. Dad sent some money for child support, but it wasn't much, and we suddenly found ourselves going from fairly well off to, well, kinda poor.
It used to be so much more fun to share lunch with you when you had takeout pizza or pasta. Your homemade meals are awful.
I know.
How can you eat this every day? If you can make your mom happy by letting her think her food is good, it's easy to eat her awful lunches.
In more ways than one, I found myself being the adult around the house while Mom was in her downward spiral. She was a high school dropout, so she wasn't qualified for many jobs, and if she got any, she never lasted too long.
Mom, I understand the customer was being rude to you, but you shouldn't have hit him in the eye with fried chicken.
He deserved it. Otherwise, you know I'm not a violent person.
You got fired from the shoe store last month because you had an argument with the manager and threw a stiletto at him.
As Mom drifted in and out of jobs and moods, I was taking care of things around the house and even managing the finances. By 8th grade, I'd started doing small jobs for the neighbors to earn some extra cash. But when I was in the 9th grade, Mom got a job as a singing telegram. Yep, she got paid to dress up in the wackiest costumes, from a tap dancing banana to a rapping dinosaur, and deliver messages in song. Happy birthday, dear Max. It's time to wear your party hat, even though you're getting older. At least you're not as old as that. Betty, you give me diabetes, 'cause you're so sweet. Say yes to marry me, and I'll kiss your feet. They weren't always happy messages, though.
Don't worry, Mike, you're not about to die, but you are getting fired, so pack your things and say bye.
For the first time, Mom seemed to be doing something she enjoyed, and I was happy for her. One evening, she was going to a fast food restaurant to deliver a birthday message, and she asked me to come along so we could eat there later. I watched in amusement as she sang and danced, but just then, I heard loud laughter at the table behind me. It was a bunch of popular girls from my class with their queen bee, Mila, and they were laughing at Mom.
Gosh, how pathetic would you have to be to take up a job that has you acting like an idiot in public?
It made me really angry, but I couldn't help feeling embarrassed too. I didn't want to be seen by them with Mom. I slid under the table, crawled towards the fire exit, and escaped. I waited in the car till Mom came, saying she'd been looking for me everywhere, but I just pretended I wasn't feeling well and wanted to go home. And when career day came around and everyone was asked to bring in their parents, I made sure Mom just never got the notice for it. So imagine my shock when Mom walked into the classroom dressed up as a giant cupcake. And when she introduced herself as my mom, I wished a sinkhole would open up. How come you didn't tell me about career day? I found the notice under your bed while cleaning. I forgot. You looked uncomfortable with me being there. Well, you know what kids are like, Mom. They can be mean. If you were planning to come, you could have said you'd do something else. Why? I know some moms who came are lawyers and doctors, and their jobs are really important to them. But I also like mine, and it pays the bills. That's all a job is supposed to do. I don't define my worth by it. I was almost annoyed with Mom for choosing this moment to sound so wise and mature. Why couldn't she understand that high school kids were judgmental and wouldn't let me live it down? Which, of course, they didn't. Wow, you got the lowest grade in the math test. If you keep up like this, you'll end up failing high school and become a singing telegram too. You're signing up for dance club? Danielle, if you dance anything like your mom, don't even bother. One day, I was walking into class when I tripped on a school bag and face planted to the floor. Oh, wow, girl. You're just as embarrassing as your mom. I'd had it. I was about to pounce on her when the door suddenly opened and the teacher walked in with the most gorgeous boy I'd ever laid eyes on. He introduced himself as Antonio, and everybody swooned over the mysterious exchange student. Antonio, you can sit here. She pushed her minion right out of the chair next to her and smiled at him innocently. But to my shock, the teacher insisted Antonio sit with me. As he walked over, he ran his fingers through his blonde hair, and his bright blue eyes mesmerized me as he gave me a smile. Oh, was I kidding? He'd never be interested in me. So I just got on with the day and watched the really pretty girls fall over themselves to talk to him, which was so embarrassing. Hey, Antonio, please zip up my lab coat. Oh, silly me. It has no zip. Can I touch your hair? Just for 1 second. It's for science. To my surprise, Antonio walked past all the other girls at lunch and asked if he could sit with me. And he actually seemed interested in talking to me.
Back home, I don't have any friends.
Really? You look like the sort who would have loads.
It's hard to trust people. It seems like most of them want to be friends for all the wrong reasons. Even here, I don't know how many of these people actually care to know the real me. You seem different, though.
Oh, I blushed and got so nervous that I spilled my milkshake all over myself. Rather than laughing, he coolly handed me a napkin. When our hands touched, we both pulled away nervously. So, tell me about the real you. He talked about how much he missed his country and his family.
We're really close, so it's hard to be away. How about your family?
Oh, well, it's just me and my mom. We're pretty close.
What does your mom do?
She's a singer.
Oh, really? What kind of singer?
Come on, think fast. A jazz singer. Really sophisticated and cool, you know? Antonio was super amazed by that. But then I suddenly realized he would discover the truth soon enough. So I lied to Mom. I've joined a club before and after school, and the timings won't suit you, so no need to drive me over and pick me up. I'll take the bus. I had to go to a cafe to kill time, before and after school, but it was worth it. Antonio and I were getting closer.
Want me to come around tonight to study? Where I'm staying, I don't get much privacy.
My mom's rehearsing with her cool and sophisticated jazz band. What about the library? We hit the books in the library one afternoon where something weird happened. These two men in suits sat right near us and kept glancing at Antonio. They were both reading, but one of them had his book upside down. I don't want to worry you, but those men keep looking at you.
Are you sure? Maybe they're looking at you because, you know, you're so pretty. It's still creepy, of course. We can get out of here and go to the mall. I have to buy a few things.
It wasn't a few things. Antonio was spending an obscene amount of money.
What? These are presents for my family. I get an allowance, you know?
Suddenly, this guy appeared out of nowhere, took Antonio's wallet, and bolted like a cheetah. But just then, the same two men from the library popped up, chased the thief down, and tackled him to the ground. Those are the men from the library. They're after us. Run, Antonio, run!
It's okay. I know them. I will explain everything.
Antonio took me to the exchange house where he was staying, which turned out to be a freaking mansion with staff who bowed to him.
I must confess something. In my country, I'm a prince. My parents are king and queen, and those men are my bodyguards.
Yeah, and I'm the Empress of Egypt, Cleopatra. Nice to meet you.
It's true. I'm really not making this up.
It really felt like he wasn't joking around, and my mouth dropped open in shock.
I'm sorry, I lied. I just wanted to experience life without the royal spotlight for a bit. I was gonna tell you the truth eventually, but I was enjoying my time with you so much, just being a regular guy. I didn't want to ruin it, because, well, I kinda like you.
Wow! A prince has feelings for me! I kinda like you too. Antonio smiled brightly. It was like a fairy tale.
Now that you know the truth, my parents are coming for a visit tomorrow, and we're having a banquet. I'd love for you to come, you and your mom.
I couldn't invite Mom, not after the lies I told about her. She went on a world tour today. She's in Japan right now.
Oh, that's a shame. I really wanted to meet her.
The next night, as I got ready for Antonio's party, Mom peeked into my room. Hey, honey, I have to work tonight. Are you going out? Yes. I'm hanging out with some friends. I'm happy to hear that. But lately, I feel like we hardly spend any time together. Any chance you want to tag along to work? We can do something fun afterwards.
I told you already, Mom. Hanging out with friends. Mom looked a bit sad as she nodded and left, and I felt kinda bad. But my mind soon shifted back to Antonio's party. I wanted to look my absolute best for it. The party was amazing, and everyone there looked super glamorous. Antonio introduced me to his parents, who were both lovely. Everything was going well when suddenly Antonio grabbed my hand.
I have a surprise for you.
The lights darkened and the stage lights lit up. Then, to my absolute horror, Mom walked on stage dressed as a queen with a fake crown and velvet robes. I closed my eyes as tightly as I could, hoping I could teleport to another planet. But, spoiler alert, it didn't work.
I found the cutest way to send a message. It's called a singing telegram. Ever heard of it? This message is for you.
Then, my mother started to sing an opera about love. Everyone cheered her on, but I wasn't even listening. I was hoping she couldn't even see me from the stage. But then, she got off and started walking into the crowd towards me. As she got closer, her voice cracked and she stopped singing mid-sentence.
Danielle?
You know her?
I guess, a little, yeah. She's my mom.
I thought your mom was a jazz singer in Japan on a world tour.
I looked at Mom as realization of what was happening dawned on her face. I'd never seen her look so sad and disappointed. Then she just turned and ran out. I'm sorry, I have to go. I ran after her as fast as I could, but she'd already left, so I took a cab home. When I got there, she had already changed out of costume. Mom, I'm sorry.
You are that embarrassed of me that you pretended I was in another country?
I know, it was awful, and
That was my last job as a singing telegram. It's over.
Mom,
You don't have to save it, Danielle. You got what you wanted. A normal mom. I'll never embarrass you again.
she wasn't the only one angry at me. Antonio was ignoring me in school the next few days too. And eventually, I had to climb the rope right behind him in gym class to get him to talk to me.
What are you doing?
I just wanted to apologize about that little mix-up.
Little mix-up? You lied to me.
Hello, Mr. I'm a secret prince?
Lying about that is different. And I told you the truth eventually. I liked you because I thought you were genuine, unlike the others, but I was clearly wrong.
His words hit me so hard that I fell off the rope. Ouch. I know I shouldn't have cared what people thought of my mom. A part of me just wanted to have a stable parent with a normal job. But what was so bad about the one who didn't? Growing up, I'd loved that she wasn't like other parents. Mom had just picked up a waitressing job at her friend's cafe, and I decided to dress up and apologize to her publicly as a singing telegram. But when I got there, I found her in a cat fight with her friend. Why won't you believe me? Why would I lie about my daughter dating a prince?
If he's a prince, he could literally date anyone. Why Danielle? You're saying my daughter isn't good enough for a prince? What's wrong with my Danielle? She's pretty and smart and the picture of grace.
I couldn't help smiling. She really was one of a kind.
Mom, I've been a jerk. We both know it's true. I'm really sorry that I made you feel blue. You deserve the best day and night. Please quit this job. Let's make it right.
As Mom and I went smiling outside, I pulled her into a hug. You always let me do whatever I wanted. I'm sorry I wasn't as supportive.
I know I haven't been the ideal parent at times.
You're the parent I want. Let's go eat something, shall we?
Any chance your prince boyfriend would join us?
He's not my boyfriend. You aren't supposed to go around announcing he's a prince.
I don't think anyone believed me anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess we'll have to see if he'll give me another chance. Either way, tonight I'd rather just hang out with you, Mom. It's been a while.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Giselle. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and rock on! My baby sister, Alora, and I were raised by our single mother, who got sick and went into a coma when I was 12 and Alora was 8. Our lives flipped upside down, even more so when we found out we'd have to live with our Aunt Mona. She was Mom's careless older sister, whom she didn't like, and we'd never even met her. But she was our only relative, so it was probably a better deal than foster care. Aunt Mona was a free-spirited, adventurous young woman who was backpacking solo around the world when we interrupted her life. In a blink of an eye, she went from one of the youngest people to have ever climbed Mount Everest to a single mom of 2 girls she didn't give birth to. And she didn't have a clue about how to take care of children. Like knowing that kids run away when you aren't paying attention. Yeah, she once lost Alora at the mall and found her hours later, and they were both traumatized by that incident. But sometimes it also made her the coolest guardian any kid could ask for. She didn't force us to eat broccoli. She allowed candy before dinner, and we stayed up as late as we wanted, binge watching MSA on school nights. My sister Alora would sometimes use that to her advantage, despite being an overall easygoing kid. And as the younger one, she required more care from Mona, who would try to force that responsibility on me.
I don't know what to do, Giselle. Help me out here. I've never had to deal with children before you guys came along.
No, Mona, she obviously cannot adopt this wild snake as a pet.
I don't want her to resent me for refusing her that. Can you please tell her yourself?
In these situations, I always ended up being the party pooper, while those two got closer. Mona remained an irresponsible adult, spoiling my sister, and Alora definitely preferred her cool aunt over her protective older sister. On top of everything else, Alora was an A-grade student, so Mona was always proud of her.
Maybe you should be more like Alora, because if you keep up with those grades, you won't be able to get into college, Giselle.
Who said I want to go to college? I want to be a guitarist in a metal band.
Well, you have to graduate from college first, then do whatever you want. Your mom wouldn't want it any other way. Also, this is just a phase.
It's not a phase, Mona. It's who I am. And don't bring my mom into this. She always supported my talents, and she was chill. I'm sure she would support my music too.
I grew up with her, so I know her better than you.
Do you though? The last time I checked, Mom never liked you because you always put yourself first. Also, did you ever go to college? Why are you suddenly acting like some responsible adult?
Don't talk back to me like that. I'm the one who takes care of you, so you need to obey me.
I obey no one. Sorry you're stuck with us, but I'm old enough to know what's best for me, and I definitely don't need you to take care of me. Our endless ego duel started with that fight and lasted for a long time. If Mona didn't understand how important music was to me, I couldn't be bothered to convince her. I was a misfit in school because I dressed like a goth and was into metal music, but I'd formed a band with some kids I'd met in the park, and being with them was the only time I felt I belonged somewhere. School was a waste of time for me, so when Mona dropped us off every morning, I waited for her to go, and then went to practice in an abandoned warehouse with my friends. Life was good, and we were even working on our first album. My bandmates and I decided to play at a very famous local metal festival the coming weekend. But of course, Mona had to overreact massively.
What do you mean a metal festival? That's no place for a child. Are you trying to send me into a coma with my sister?
Chillax, man. Why are you being so melodramatic?
Maybe because she's worried about you and the company you're keeping? Your friends are a bad influence on you.
Shut up, Mini Raccoon. Keep your nose out of my business. You're just Mona's butt wipe. Despite all her efforts, Mona couldn't keep me away from the festival. We had practiced so hard, and I wasn't letting this opportunity slide. The festival was massive, and I was loving the energy of the crowd and getting to see the other bands perform. But just before it was our turn, the police crashed the event and dispersed the crowds because apparently the festival didn't have a permit. My bandmates and I ran faster than Roadrunner until we ended up near the town's historical municipal building. As an act of protest against the way the metalheads were treated, we decided to write messages and spray paint all over the building's old walls. Anarchy was in town, and before we knew it, the police caught up to us and took us to the station. The humiliation I felt when Mona arrived to bail me out was unmatched. I just knew that she would use this card against me for the rest of my life.
See? I told you they're a bad influence. You're hardly ever in school because of them.
What? Young lady, your behavior is out of control. It's about time you learn some discipline. No more metal music, and you're forbidden from hanging out with those punks.
Forbidden? You can't force me. Challenge accepted. She was very serious. She started dropping into school unannounced to check up on me and chat with my teachers. All this time I had been skipping school, I was forging her signature for made-up appointments. And now that cat was out of the bag. But even worse, one day when Mona had dropped in, she witnessed a bunch of mean girls bullying me.
Hey, freak. I heard that music festival was a flop and you ended up in jail. I'm sure you deserve that. Your music is as bad as your taste in clothes.
Yeah, you're practically a crime against fashion. Weirdo. This wasn't new for me, but when it happened in front of Mona, I felt like my ego was crushed. I just knew she'd give me some insensitive lecture that I didn't want to hear right now.
Don't listen to them. Only people who are insecure about themselves feel the need to put others down. You're unique and special. You know what you like, and you know how to express yourself. Don't allow their words to hurt you.
I was really surprised, but just acted indifferent. I don't care about them, or anyone. But I was really glad that she didn't tell me to change my appearance, or even gave me some lecture about not standing up for myself that would just make me feel bad. Since that day, something shifted in our dynamics. I started appreciating her as someone who had always done things her own way, and wasn't afraid to be herself. I started wondering why Mom disliked her so much. She wasn't all that bad. So one day, when Mona was at her yoga class, I decided to look through her photo albums to see when exactly they stopped talking. As I was digging through some boxes, I found Mona's old diaries. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help reading them, and I felt like I was getting to know a very relatable and real person with whom I had a lot in common. But then I came upon the entry that made everything clear. Grandpa was a single parent, and he was sick for years when Mona and Mom were teenagers, and their financial situation wasn't the best. So instead of staying with Mom to help her, Mona stole a bunch of Grandma's jewelry and Grandpa's cash, then ran away from home at 18 to go backpacking around the world. Mona's confessions in her diary were her true thoughts, so it wasn't just Mom's opinion of her. She was an irresponsible, selfish older sister who had left Mom to struggle. Mom never had the opportunity to do things she liked because she had responsibilities bigger than her ever since she was 15. Mona had stolen Mom's youth. I was so distracted and angry in the following days that I couldn't even focus on band practice, which wasn't good for us because our album was launching soon. We also had a tour planned, and I needed Mona's permission to skip school for 2 weeks and travel around the country. I was already hating that idea, and the conversation didn't go well. I just want to know where you get your audacity from, Giselle. You get to be your own person, but not before you finish high school. I thought I made that clear. Also, I still don't like your irresponsible bandmates, and I can't let you travel around with them. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, which is important for my future career. And you know what? I can't even take you seriously when I know how irresponsible and selfish you are. Excuse me? You heard me. Your lack of responsibility ruined Mom's life. She had to become an adult too soon because her older sister decided to bail on her. And don't try to deny it. I read your own confession in your diary. You read my diary? This is such an invasion of privacy. I don't want to see your face right now. You're grounded. Gladly. Plan B it was. That night, I wrote her a letter and snuck out my window. Not so dear Mona. When I'm famous and successful, don't come knocking at my door. I want you to remember how terrible you were to me and my mom. Selfish witch. Rock on, Giselle. The adrenaline rush I felt as I left the house in the middle of the night was unmatched. I rushed down our street as fast as I could to my friends who were waiting for me in their van. And so, my new life as a rebellious musician began. The next morning, I woke up to 20 missed calls from Mona and 70 voice notes. Alora also left me tons of texts saying Mona was furious and I had to come back home. So I decided to turn off my phone and enjoy the decision I had made. Night after night, we played in different cities across several states, and the crowds loved us everywhere. It felt good being cheered by unknown people, meeting potential connections in the music industry, and getting paid. But after 3 weeks on the road with my bandmates, I started noticing how tiring living in a van with them was. They didn't clean up after themselves and often had the pettiest arguments. I also became lazy and stopped taking this tour seriously. We even missed a couple of shows because they didn't feel like it. I missed hot showers and delicious homemade food. I even felt Mona and Alora's absence. But I couldn't bear to hear Mona's "I told you so" and admit she was kinda right about my friends. I knew I would have some big punishment waiting for me back home. One night after our concert, it was raining heavily, so we decided to stay in a hotel to rest and wait for the rain to stop. But we couldn't afford a good hotel, so the 5 of us had to share a shabby room, and being the youngest, they made me sleep on the floor. And the next morning, we realized that our dream tour had turned into a real nightmare. Is that our van floating down the street? It had rained so much that there was flash flooding in town. Unless we managed to get a boat or build an ark, we couldn't get out. The electricity and internet connection was down too, so we were basically stuck with no contact with the outside world. The next next 2 nights, things got worse as we waited for some help to come. Everyone was scared and hungry. And to top that, my bandmates managed to push all my buttons when they suggested we swim for it. They were morons. I spent all my time regretting the way I'd left. I realized that I'd left Alora with our selfish aunt to pursue my dreams, kind of what Mona had done to Mom. Now, in this grave danger, I wondered if I'd ever get to see my sister again. But the next morning, we woke up to the loud sound of helicopters. We rushed to the rooftop to see the rescue teams had finally reached our area. And just then, I heard a familiar, high-pitched, distinct voice screaming from a megaphone. "That's her over there! That's my niece!" I couldn't believe my eyes. Mona was here to save me. At that moment, I forgot everything else. And when we were rescued, I hugged her as tight as I could. How did you even find me? I'd find you even if you were on Mars, Giselle. You're my little girl, and I would never let anything harm you. I was able to track you from your phone's location, and I know people working in some rescue agencies, so I pulled a few strings. I'm so sorry for how I left things. You were right about my bandmates, and I regret everything I wrote in that letter. There's nothing to forgive. You know, I came to your room that night to tell you everything, but you'd already run away. I guess you didn't read my diary entries long enough to know how much I regretted my selfish actions later. I spent years reaching out to your mom and trying to make it up to her, but she refused to forgive me, and now she never will. But I promised that I'd do my best to take care of you girls. I'm sure she'd forgive you if she saw the person you are now, Aunt Mona. Alora was waiting for us at home, and she was so happy to see me safe and sound. I had betrayed my sister, and she still received me with open arms.
Don't scare me like that again, and don't leave me.
Never, I promise.